Okay, we are live. I think we are live. So
Uh,
showing.
Not yet. Not yet. Please wait for my cue.
Okay.
Hello and welcome to EduAbroad, run by Harvard Cambridge alumni. My name is Aradhya Watts, and I am so excited. I couldn't be more excited for today's uh, webinar. So today we are kicking off EduAbroad Talkies with the one and only Dr. Siddharth. We have with us over here Dr. Siddharth, who is from IIT Kharagpur, IIM Ahmedabad, Solvay Business School, Belgium, and ESSEC Business School in France. So please put your hands together for Dr. Siddharth Priya.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you, Aradhya, for such a nice introduction. Those academic institutions, I would say, have been part of my journey for, I would say, quite a bit. And of course, the experiences which I intend to share during the course of this session. Uh, yeah, uh, please.
Lovely. Thank you so much for giving us your precious time, sir. We're very grateful. And also, we have a lot of questions lined up for you, given your diverse experience in India and abroad. So I have a couple of questions with me, and in case we receive any questions from the audience, I'll keep a watch if we get anything in the comments section. So I'll let you know. Does that work?
Sure. Yes, of course. Great.
All right. All right. All right. Yeah. Okay. So, even though you're from the most premier institutions in India, आप IIT से पढ़े हैं, IIM से पढ़े हैं, फिर भी you chose to go abroad, even if it was for an exchange semester या summer school, जैसे कि आप बेल्जियम गए, तो ऐसा क्यों? Why do you think it was important for you, and why do you think it's important for others to have this experience, of going abroad for studies?
Okay, so my trigger to go on exchange has I would say, a very funny incident when I look
Uh-huh.
back now. But of course, at that point in time, it was not funny. Of course, I was very fascinated by, you can say, different countries. And my background, in case I have to give a brief about, I'm from a middle class family. I grew up I was born in Eastern UP, a place called Kushinagar, and then my father, he works with judicial services in Bihar government. So primarily the government setup, not so called corporate setup.
Mm-hmm.
And because of that reason, of course, things outside the so-called limited geography, which we used to
Mm-hmm.
get to travel to, fascinated.
Mm-hmm.
Of course, I did not get an opportunity while being at IIT Kharagpur, even though
Uh-huh.
some people were going on exchange or even for MS. And even though second year onward, if my CGP is taken into account, I was a 9 pointer. I did not have at that point in time an opportunity to go outside. And being from middle
Uh-huh.
class, we are primarily, you can say, target financial stability, getting a job, and that's how I took it. But when I came to IMA, when management education, I would say, became part of my so-called knowledge buildup, uh,
Mm-hmm.
I got to interact, and I would say one-to-one at IMA with a lot of foreign students who come on exchange.
Okay.
And the funny incident which I was talking about, I'm married, I have two kids, and my wife knows it. I got infatuated with a French girl. So
Okay.
and I was member of the Exchange Council. We had almost 100 plus students. So I was very curious to go and visit the country. I
Uh-huh.
stood for the election body. I was, apart from the Exchange Council, for the mess secretary position, I stood. But when I came to know that being a member of the student council, I won't be allowed to go on exchange, I dropped out of the race. Of course, I received a lot of
Okay.
criticism from my batchmates, but
Uh-huh.
I wanted to explore, and that was the trigger for me to go to SA. Of course, as I
Okay.
mentioned, the French connection.
Uh-huh.
And prior to that, I also interacted with another girl who was from ESCP, another institution. ESSEC
Yes.
is a grande école.
Yes.
So ESCP, she was from ESCP, an economics major. And
Uh-huh.
I helped her getting an internship at RBI. So when I visited
Uh-huh.
France, they were very kind enough to. Her father was running a consulting company in
Uh-huh.
Shadiou, Rue de Shadiou, and in the main France, they had their house. They were very nice to host me there.
Lovely.
Uh, so yeah, and that's how I landed up there, and a
Uh-huh.
lot of experiences I had, and so even though the trigger was something else, but when I landed there, when I started interacting with the so-called student community, when I saw what are the different kind of hardships which Indian students when they go with limited set of information face, we did a lot of activities there. So even though
I see.
I stayed there for 4 months for the first time, after that again I visited.
Uh-huh.
The Indian embassy officials knew me because I pestered them quite a bit.
Uh-huh.
ESSEC officials knew me. The board knew me because I pestered them quite a bit. And I'll talk about subsequently what those incidents were there.
Okay.
And it was a wonderful experience. There were a
Wow.
couple of Indian students who were full time studying there, not from IIT or IIM, from different colleges. So it
Uh-huh.
was overall it was great experience.
Okay. So you mentioned that you were in touch with a few students who had come to IIM Ahmedabad for exchange, right?
Yes, yes.
So even for the people from other institutions, even for them, exchange program and such things are there, and they come to our country, India, for exchange. So meaning exchange and going abroad has significance in other Western countries as well. It's not just India, but Western countries also send their students to us for higher studies and exchange semesters. So there must be some reason why studying in abroad is given so much importance, both in India and abroad. Like, why do you think people come here, and why do we go there? What is it that we gain or they gain from this experience?
Okay, so two noted individuals who had, I would say, a great impact on our
Uh-huh.
country, freedom, as well as the policies which we utilize today, they
Uh-huh.
had foreign
Uh-huh.
education. So these two notable individuals, of course, one Mr. Mahatma Gandhi, another one Dr. Ambedkar. And
Ambedkar,
I'd
yes.
like to quote from Dr. Ambedkar's statement as I get to hear it. In Hindi, they say, "शिक्षा शेरनी का वो दूध है जो भी पिएगा वो दहाड़ेगा." So
Mm-hmm.
he is supposed to be one of the most learned person of his time, and a father of the
Yes.
Constitution, India's first law minister.
Mm-hmm.
So given the kind of variety which exists, the kind of exposure which you get to the established education institutions, and of course, in Europe, in UK, the institutions are very old. Even though we
Uh-huh.
pride ourselves in so-called Nalanda Institute and etc., but the
Mm-hmm.
continuing education institution in India, they lack that rigor, I would say.
Mm-hmm.
And I was just talking to another Kozhikode alumni, sorry, rather than alumni, a first year student.
Mm-hmm.
When I was at IMA almost 2009, 14 years ago, we had semester
Mm-hmm.
system, the jamming up, even the courses which were getting there, they were quite packed.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And unfortunately, what that lead to is less amount of depth. When I
Okay.
went to ESSEC, I was really surprised, and but I could understand the logic based on what interaction I had with IMA professors about their
Mm-hmm.
perspective about the quality of assignments which foreign students submit. It has huge depth.
Okay. Wow.
There the courses which are given, you
Uh-huh.
have a lot of flexibility to choose.
Mm-hmm.
Second, since you can choose a few of the courses depending upon your interest, you can go into deeper depth.
Hmm.
When I was okay, so since I was quite interested also in traveling, I had taken four
Mm-hmm.
courses in
Mm-hmm.
the semester which I spent. And
Mm-hmm.
all the courses I was doing in a single day, and then rest of the 6 days I was traveling. Even though I could score,
Mm-hmm.
I would say
Ah,
more than 90% marks, but the
yes.
depth, the amount of time available, the interaction which you have with different peer groups, that is of
Mm.
immense value. And
Wow.
I would say, even though I'm Ahmedabad, gave me a very good platform and much more recognizable brand within India, I would
Yeah.
contribute or I would credit my, you can say, international exposure primarily to ESSEC and Solvay. So
Uh-huh.
Solvay is in Belgium
Yes.
because I got to meet colleagues from more than 40 countries.
Wow.
And even though we might have, I would say, perception that a person who speaks very fluent English might be very intelligent, it is not so. I met
Yes.
with people who were speaking okay kind of English, but
Ah.
huge maturity. Working in a team setup, which management education requires, that huge, I would say, maturity. They were able to
Mm-hmm.
manage the teams, learning from each other, trying to understand maybe let's say in a multicultural environment, how one
Mm-hmm.
should work, what all maybe let's say people's related cues you should take into account. All those they had much
Mm-hmm.
better understanding. In India, what
Mm-hmm.
we are used to it, and primarily I would say
Mm-hmm.
engineering and probably would be true for other kind of courses also.
Mm-hmm.
Just before maybe let's say a month or so prior to the exam, people will just spend a huge amount of time on studying because that studying would be
Mm-hmm.
done from the perspective of clearing the exam.
Yes.
Unfortunately, that should not be the case. The learning which one gets from this foreign education, from the peer group, from the faculty, from the ecosystem itself, that should be something which one should pay more attention to. And that is where even the knowledge of these individuals reflects quite a bit. So whether it's Dr.
Hmm.
Ambedkar or Mahatma Gandhi, because framing of
Hmm.
constitution would require huge discipline,
Hmm.
understanding of different things, that kind of drive, and one should have gone through that kind of grind.
Hmm.
So I would say, as far as knowledge is concerned, as far as building perspective is concerned, as far as
Mm-hmm.
appreciating oneself that we are part of a much larger ecosystem than the just limited boundaries of a country, one would be able to build all these perspectives. And
Understood.
you build humility. So I think quite a long answer to a question.
I I mean I completely second the part where you said that courses abroad or the study pedagogy, if I were to put it like that, कि अगर आप देखें पढ़ाने का तरीका, पढ़ने का ढंग, subjects जो हैं, तो they require more depth अब्रॉड. एंड मैं इसलिए इसको +1 करूंगी क्योंकि मैं जब 5th ईयर में थी, मैंने आईपीएम किया है, इंटीग्रेटेड प्रोग्राम इन मैनेजमेंट फ्रॉम आईएम इंदौर. तो जब मेरा एमबीए का 2nd ईयर था तो मैं भी फ्रांस गई थी, मोntpellier बिजनेस स्कूल साउथ फ्रांस में है. एसेक के लिए तो सर उतनी मेरिट मेरी थी नहीं कि मैं एसेक जा पाऊं. तो मोntpellier बिजनेस स्कूल में जब मैं गई थी तो वहां पर मेरे साथ के जो बच्चे थे जो वहां पढ़ रहे थे, दे वर रिक्वायर्ड टू सबमिट अ थीसिस, नॉट अस. बट वहां पे जो बच्चे एमबीए कर रहे थे और मेरे साथ के 2nd ईयर में थे, तो उनका रिक्वायरमेंट था कोर्स कंप्लीशन के लिए एक थीसिस सबमिशन, विच शोज कि कितना किसी एक चीज को पकड़ के उन्हें बहुत डेप्थ में जाके रिसर्च करके पढ़ के वो थीसिस बनाना था. तो मस्ट हैव बीन अ ग्रेट लर्निंग एक्सपीरियंस फॉर देम. तो आपने जब बोला कि डेप्थ जो होती है, अगर हम देखें अब्रॉड, ग्लोबली रिकॉग्नाइज्ड जो इंस्टीट्यूशंस हैं, जो अच्छी यूनिवर्सिटीज हैं, वहां पे बहुत डेप्थ में पढ़ाई होती है. ये चीज जब आपने बोली तो मुझे याद आ गया, तो इसलिए जस्ट अ कमेंट. बाकी यू मेड अ पॉइंट कि इट ब्रिंग्स ह्यूमिलिटी, द एक्सपीरियंस ऑफ स्टडिंग अब्रॉड ब्रिंग्स ह्यूमिलिटी. तो थोड़ा वुड यू लाइक टू शेड सम लाइट ऑन इट?
ऑफ कोर्स, ऑफ कोर्स. सो जैसा हमें बहुत सारे लोगों को मालूम है कि लेट्स से रीजन पीपल फ्रॉम पंजाब गो टू कनाडा, एंड also from the coastal areas people go to multiple places, and uh, even in places like Australia. So people would take up, you can say, cab related job. They will try to sponsor their studies rather than just depending upon parents financial resources. हमारे यहाँ पे एक ऐसा परसेप्शन है कि अगर कोई बंदा होटल में काम कर रहा है या फिर कैब कर रहा है तो वो थोड़ी सी हीन भावना से देखा जाता है. इट
जी.
शुड नॉट बी द केस. वर्क हैज इट्स यूटिलिटी. ऑल वर्क
Dignity
हैज
of
इट्स
labor.
इम्पोर्टेंस. डिग्निटी ऑफ लेबर, यस. सो वो एक आप
Yeah.
बहुत सारी चीज सीखते हैं. सेकंड, आप ये भी सीखते हैं कि भाई मान लीजिए आप अगर ग्रुप में काम कर रहे हैं एंड लॉट ऑफ ग्रुप प्रोजेक्ट्स आर गिवन.
Hmm.
अगर आप ग्रुप में काम कर रहे हैं तो आपकी केवल इंडिविजुअल परफॉर्मेंस पे आप बहुत ज्यादा आगे नहीं जा सकते हैं. आपको ग्रुप
Hmm.
के साथ ही चलना है और देखना है कि आप जो भी काम कर रहे हैं, आपके जो भी टीम मेंबर्स हैं, वेदर एवरीवन इज मे बी इफ नॉट ऑन द मे बी लेट्स से सेम इंटेलिजेंस लेवल, बट मोर और लेस दे आर कैचिंग अप. क्योंकि
जी.
जो जंजीर होती है उसकी जो स्ट्रेंथ होती है उसके सबसे कमजोर कड़ी से नापी जाती है.
बिल्कुल.
So what you try to do is you get a more kind of a group environment, more assimilated understanding. Because आप जो
Hmm.
प्रैक्टिकली किसी कंपनी में काम करते हैं, ऐसा नहीं है कि आपको
Hmm.
एक दे दिया भाई कि तुम ये यहाँ से वहां ले जाके काम कर दो और दैट इज इट. आप जब किसी
Hmm.
कंपनी में ऑर्गेनाइजेशन में काम करते हैं, व्हेन यू वर्क इवन इन अ रिसर्च प्रोजेक्ट व्हिच इज फंडेड बाय
Hmm.
इंडस्ट्री, or
हाँ.
when an institution is getting grant, your
हाँ.
work, your performance would be dependent by a number of elements.
Hmm.
So you start building appreciation of all that. So केवल अपने पे ध्यान देने के बजाय you also start seeing other things into perspective. And when
Hmm.
you interact with people, when you do not
Hmm.
know, let's say, language much, when you have to travel, जैसे मेरे केस में क्या हुआ कि मैं अकेले I had taken URail pass. So just
हाँ.
one day I was working in the sense I was studying, and then rest of 5 6 days I was just traveling. So जब
Yeah.
आप छोटी छोटी cities में जाते हैं where maybe let's say people do not know your language,
हाँ.
and when you travel, when you ask them directions, आपको इस जगह पे जाना
हाँ.
है, and when people
हाँ.
go out of their way, which I experience even in Cairns, which I experience even in when I was visiting Munich, Mannheim,
Hmm.
people go out of the way and then they guide you. Okay, go there, even though they may have no knowledge of broken English. You start
Yeah.
appreciating it. That it
Yes.
is not that your existence is entirely dependent on you. There are multiple
Yes.
companies,
Yes.
people of all kind
हाँ.
help your survival, help your progress, help you in uncertain conditions, even though they may not expect anything in return from you. From you.
Yes. On that note, I would also like to share a small story. When I was in Norway, it was freezing cold and I lost my way, and my phone stopped working because it was so cold. I couldn't see directions or anything. And there, an elderly couple came to my help. Just what you said, people going out of their way. They gave me their phone. I could call my friends, and they arranged everything for me. They asked me to wait in their home while people came to help me. So it was amazing. So yes, we develop humility, we develop
And
appreciation for these things. Yes,
yes,
please.
and one instance I would also like to cite, which I was mentioning in the beginning of our conversation, that what experience I had with ESSEC. When I went there, जब मैं इंडिया से ट्राई कर रहा था, because accommodation was biggest expense for us. And
Mm-hmm.
since I was member of the Exchange Council, almost 9 10 of us we were going. But I
Mm-hmm.
had received a scholarship from Solvay, and the summer school
Mm-hmm.
was starting in the beginning. So
Yeah.
I was trying from India to talk to the student body, embassy, other resources, find cheaper accommodations. Unfortunately,
Uh-huh.
we were not able to do so. So I
G.
decided, okay, let me go to Solvay, stay there
Hmm.
for almost a month, 2 months, and then from there maybe I'll go to Paris and I'll try to help probably.
Hmm.
After my Solvay stint, when I visited ESSEC, I was surprised, and as I was mentioning that I was being hosted in Paris by one of the exchange students' family. When I
Yes.
went at the university, the student body was not able to help because they hardly had idea that where we could get discounted or maybe let's say low cost housing hostels. अब आप 700 यूरो आप दें उस समय ऑलमोस्ट 70,000 80,000 रुपये पर मंथ का कॉस्ट पड़े तो काफी वो
हाँ.
जेब पे लगता है. एंड आई वाज
हाँ.
स्पॉन्सरिंग ऑल माय स्टडीज बाय माई सेल्फ. सो मैंने अपना एमबीए खुद
हाँ.
के पैसे से किया. सो
Hmm.
आई रोट अ लेटर to the
हाँ.
ESSEC management, the president
हाँ.
of the ESSEC, that
हाँ.
okay, please, I'm finding it very hard to get an accommodation at a reasonable price. Please help. Otherwise,
हाँ.
I'm okay spoiling my one semester. I'll go back to India.
हाँ.
So, but they were quite nice, quite kind. The deans had a meeting, and one of the
Mm-hmm.
deans, for all 10 of us, they
Uh-huh.
sponsored half of our rent. So from 56,000, 60,000 से हमारा 25, 30,000 पे आ गया rent.
Hmm.
And they gave places to us in hostel also. But there
Wow.
were two, three students who could not find accommodation in hostel, ESSEC hostel.
Hmm.
So they were
Hmm.
accommodated outside, where landlord was there. But for them also, the institute paid 50% of the rent. So they were
Hmm.
so accommodative. So I would
Hmm.
say India में अगर ऐसा कुछ रहता तो because of the
Hmm.
bureaucracy etc. I suspect anybody would have done that, but they're very
Hmm.
open. So that
Hmm.
was again a
Understood.
very engaging experience and very, I would say, humbling experience.
Hmm. मेरा जो अगला क्वेश्चन है वो इस बारे में है कि अब्रॉड पढ़ने के पॉजिटिव्स हमने अभी डिस्कस किए, कुछ नेगेटिव्स भी हो तो जो आपने एक्सपीरियंस किए हो तो प्लीज हमसे शेयर करिए। जैसे फॉर एग्जांपल वी एट एड्यू अब्रॉड वी सेंड चिल्ड्रन अब्रॉड फॉर स्टडीज, और हमारा पोस्ट अराइवल भी हम असिस्ट करते हैं उनको, बिकॉज हमारे ऑलरेडी हम 20 ईयर्स से ये कर रहे हैं तो ऑलरेडी हमारा एक नेटवर्क बिल्ड हो चुका है। हमारे अलमनाई, हमारे फ्रेंड्स, मेंटोर्स बहुत सारे कंट्रीज में ऑल ओवर द वर्ल्ड हैं। तो जब बच्चा वहां पहुंचता है तब उसको कोई हेल्प चाहिए होता है तो वी कनेक्ट देम विद दोस पीपल एंड वी प्रोवाइड एज मच असिस्टेंस एज वी कैन। बट आपके एक्सपीरियंस में क्या कुछ नेगेटिव्स हैं, कुछ डिफिकल्टीज हैं जो आपने फेस करी? एंड पता नहीं क्यों मुझे लग रहा है देयर वाज दिस कमेंट यू मेड दैट you had to pester the authorities for something. So I think we might connect the dots and we might arrive there also. So please, the floor is all yours. बताइए कुछ negatives जो आपको लगे बाहर पढ़ने
Sure,
के।
sure. So wonderful question. I would say rather than being negative, they would arise out of lack of information.
Okay.
So lack of information would primarily result in, I would say, incorrect perception, incorrect anticipations, which was,
Okay.
of course, there also in my case. But I had a limited say in the amount of information which I had because prior to us, whichever batches had gone, they had not worked on it. And
Mm-hmm.
also, they did not have an ecosystem. When I went there
Mm-hmm.
after all this issue, we also established Indian students' body in that business school.
Mm-hmm.
Fortunately, even after 15 years, it runs. So that is,
Wow.
I would say, an achievement.
Yes, it is.
So what I would say, yeah. So it is. I would say that it is the lack of information, lack of research, and a lack of research not just on the students' student side, but whatever entities they are associated with, whether let's say education consultants, or maybe let's say organization which are helping them getting them on board there. From their
Mm-hmm.
perspective, also, in case they do not have, they are not reliable. In case they do not have that much of I would say information with them or the network, of course, all those
Mm-hmm.
issues would arise. What I would
Yes.
also suggest, probably something which can ease such kind of issues is
Mm-hmm.
build a connection with the embassies. What I found in my experience, Indian embassies are very open,
Mm.
very, very responsive. And that is where
Mm-hmm.
we also took that cue and we had established this Association of Indian Students Abroad when I came back, and
Mm-hmm.
then we tried to do a lot of things for foreign students.
Uh-huh.
So one can get in touch with Indian embassies also. Usually they
Uh-huh.
would respond.
Uh-huh.
And we, of course, when I was at ESSEC, when we found this Indian students body, we also organized a business event where we had participations from TCS, Accor, Thales is
Uh,
a major defense producer company,
yeah, yeah.
and the event was sponsored by the ISEC Institute itself also. So
Wow.
such proactiveness is there. We have to, of course, identify multiple channels.
Hmm.
And what I would also advise is primarily the issues could also, when you interact with the local populace,
Mm-hmm.
misunderstandings could arise. So one should be
Hmm.
very cautious about that. One incident
Mm-hmm.
which I can talk about is in one or two places I stayed in youth hostels. And
Uh-huh.
India, what we have is we just, and the breakfast was of course included in the price,
Uh-huh.
room rent. So हमारे इंडिया में क्या होता है अगर बुफे सिस्टम रहता है we just go take it and eat it.
हाँ
When I
हाँ
was doing that, people expected that whoever are the servers, the people who are serving there,
हाँ
giving
हाँ
that food, you
हाँ
greet them in the morning. जो हमारे यहाँ ऐसा कुछ करते नहीं, हमारे जाते हैं सामान लेकर के वही खा के निकल लो. So,
हाँ
so, so those kind of, and it is not just in maybe let's say these youth hostels, shopping
हाँ
stores,
हाँ
etc. Wherever you go,
हाँ
sometimes that could arise, that could cause misunderstanding.
ओके
Another things which I would suggest is try to get information about, you can say, movement, traveling, etc., from local people, friends also. Because
हम्म
even though France is a very good place, quite safe, but
हम्म
the campus was a bit far from Paris.
ओके
Unfortunately, one or two of our classmates, when they were traveling during night time, they got robbed. So that also is there. So it is not that you can party 24 hours a day. So some aspects, some local information you need to get, and don't think that it is completely you are free and everything is nice and all. So those are a couple of things which one need to take care. But primarily it is around of you can say asymmetry of information. Uh,
Understood. I have one last question from my side, and then there is one question in the comment as well. तो मेरी तरफ से ये क्वेश्चन है कि जैसे आप आईआईटी से पढ़े आईआईएम और फिर आप अब्रॉड भी पढ़े, तो हमारे स्टूडेंट्स को अगर आपको कोई एडवाइस देनी हो रिगार्डिंग बैलेंसिंग स्टडीज विद एक्स्ट्रा करिकुलर्स, तो अपने एक्सपीरियंस से आप क्या एडवाइस देना चाहेंगे?
अगर आपको जॉब अगर मार्केट में जाना है, so see your
हम्म
education can take you only to the door. After
हम्म
that, it can give you an opening. After that, your extracurricular activities come into picture quite a bit.
हम्म
And I will not just give references from the perspective of my international experience. Even from my admission to IIM, I was one of the fortunate few who could get a call from all the old IIM so-called blackies, which they mentioned.
हाँ
And my IIM Bangalore interview was very interesting from that
हाँ
perspective, and that is where I would say that my extracurricular activities came into picture. So I'm a practitioner of karate,
हाँ
and
हाँ
then this, if I remember correctly, the name of the faculty who was interviewing, Mr. Vishwanathan, and then there was another young faculty. So
हाँ
when I told, okay, I have been doing karate at IIT, they told
हाँ
me, okay, show some of your moves. And then I was able to do it.
वाओ
uh, So that was one, and even at IIM Kozhikode, this group discussion which I was having there also. Within the group discussion, how do you see the opening when people are when you take a cue from when you have a lot of group related activities involvement, you take a cue from there that okay, when there
हाँ
is an opening when you can talk about. Now from the
हम्म
international perspective, what happens when you are a bit open to interacting with people, when you are a bit open in interacting with others' perspective and giving space to others' perspective, what happens?
हम्म
You build friendships very fast.
ओके
So fortunately, when I was at Solvay, this summer school was sponsored. I got a scholarship.
हम्म
Uh, I had a very interesting interaction. I made friendship with many Romanians, Hungarians, and they're very good in mathematics. Even girls,
हाँ
very good in
हाँ
mathematics. And I still keep in touch with them.
हम्म
And we get to learn quite a bit. So you make a lot of friends. And when I made friends in, you can say in ESSEC,
हाँ
we had a couple of friends from Chile, Argentina, and I made a visit to Argentina also subsequently. So I
वाओ
stayed with a friend of mine. He was in Cordoba. I visited, of course, Buenos Aires, and then from there I went to Cordoba, and it was great experience. We get to learn
लवली
a lot. When I finished my doctorate, he gave some of the reviews, Martin, in case he attends this. Sometimes he sees this video session, so I'll have to quote him. So he did his supply chain management course from MIT, And I
Uh-huh.
was finishing my PhD when I did my doctorate. He said, "Okay, send me your thesis. I'll also review." So, bit of feedback he also gave. So, a lot of such
Uh-huh.
information you get. Even the
Uh-huh.
Indian students who were regular students at SA, a couple of them are entrepreneurs. I'm
Wow.
planning to subsequently, when we'll have these sessions, I'm planning to get one of them has confirmed. Another
Please,
two of them
please.
have confirmed. One of the entrepreneurs has confirmed. Another one who is working in Canada, he has confirmed. The third one I'll ask. So you also build a lot of such potential of developing entrepreneurship activities, and
Yeah.
they have, I would say, been bit successful. The one
Mm-hmm.
who came back to India after working in
Mm-hmm.
Malaysia and other places, he has been quite successful. He sold out the
Mm-hmm.
company, and then now he is venturing into renewable energy. They were working with
Mm-hmm.
electric ride sharing vehicle.
Mm-hmm.
So a lot of such advantages could arise. And the bottom
Mm-hmm.
line is, as I was mentioning in the beginning of this answer to the question, that your
Mm-hmm.
institute resume can take you to a place or till the door, opening of a door. After that,
Yeah.
primarily your network, your personal connections, your personality, all that comes into picture. How do you interact with
Yes.
people? How strong networks you have built, and those who have any work experience after 3 4 years in the job market,
Uh-huh.
it is the network which comes into the picture. It is not like government exam where they will give a vacancy public notice and then you go and pass an exam. You build a
Ah.
network, and that network
Yes, yes.
sustains you over a longer period of time.
Yes. Completely second that. So, sir, we have a couple of questions in the comments. We have already covered some of it. I see we can take one question due to paucity
Sure,
of time. Maybe we can type out the answers to the rest of the questions later on that are there in the
sure.
comments. So, how easy or tough is it to get a job abroad? Is the question.
Okay, so that is one advantage I would say Indian institutions have, at least the premier ones we have, not the
Mm-hmm.
tier two or tier three. That the number of round of interviews which you have to go
Hmm.
through for getting at a job at IIT
Mm-hmm.
exams is hardly one or two maximum.
Hmm.
Outside India, but I would say it has its own merit. Outside India, you have to go through at least 4 5 rounds,
Mm-hmm.
where what happens is your assessment is done from a much more broader perspective.
Mm-hmm.
And once you land up in the job, then the organization, the people involved in the process who would be probably interacting with you day in and day out know that what kind of a
Mm-hmm.
person you are, your personality, what kind of
Mm-hmm.
longer tenure you have. But as
Mm.
far as fortunately, India is it's the we have 130 CR plus people, so the inside economy, of course, it is growing quite a bit. Outside,
Yeah.
the slowdown is there, but for good people, jobs are not that problematic, which I would say, because the
Uh,
friends I'm talking about who were with me at SA,
uh,
none of them I would say that they came back. They got jobs. So some of them move
okay.
Canada, some Australia, other places.
Okay.
But it could be on account of the institute also. ASEC is very well
Hmm.
known, very renowned. So
Hmm.
probably that would have.
Yeah.
But the batch size is also very big at that place. Unlike
Uh,
Indian premier institutions where the batch size is, the number of students is less.
uh-huh.
So job, yes, comparative to India, of course, depending upon the economic situation, it would be some places it will be difficult. But
Hmm.
in case you have the drive, you would be able to
Yeah.
get it.
Yeah.
And I would say that you would have to take a longer term perspective. If you think that
Uh-huh.
maybe let's say just completing the studies after right after that you would get a job, then probably you
Mm-hmm.
will be disappointed. You will have to take a the moment you land there. I would suggest that you, from that point itself, you start building
Hmm.
that network, that ecosystem, connect with people, all that activity you do. Then, in my opinion, things would get, I would say, smoothened compared to other
Okay.
people.
Okay. Okay. Understood. Sure. Sure. Thank you so much for being with us, Dr. Siddharth, and giving your time and sharing your valuable opinion, insights on so many matters. You come from a wealth of experience. आप बाहर पढ़ाई करने गए, आपने organizations establish करी international, आपके friends हैं, and you still keep in touch with them जो abroad settled हैं, and आप जाते हैं, visit करते रहते हैं countries को. तो थैंक यू सो मच कि आपने हमारे लिए टाइम निकाला और हमसे इतनी सारी बातें करी. सो थैंक यू सो मच.
Thank you,
एंड
Radha. Pleasure connecting.
and for our audience, the objective of this series, Edu Abroad Talkies, is to bring out stories from people जिन्होंने बाहर पढ़ाई करी है या जो बाहर जॉब करते हैं. तो उनकी स्टोरीज, उनके पर्सनल एक्सपीरियंसेस हम निकाल के लाना चाहते हैं और आपसे शेयर करना चाहते हैं इस टॉक सीरीज के थ्रू. एक माहौल बनाना चाहते हैं, फॉर स्टडिंग अब्रॉड. And so today was episode 1. Today we had Dr. Siddhartha, and in consequent episodes, Dr. Siddhartha is going to bring a lot of interesting people, brilliant, prolific people on this platform. And please stay tuned for further updates कि next week कौन आने वाले हैं, उसके बाद कौन से guests आने वाले हैं. Please stay tuned to our channel. If you like this idea, if you like what we're doing, please do like, share, subscribe, drop a comment. If you have any queries, if you wish to study abroad, we at EduAbroad provide a range of services. काउंसलिंग से लेकर आपका टेस्ट प्रिपरेशन से लेकर वीजा प्रोसेसिंग, स्कॉलरशिप असिस्टेंस, प्री एंड पोस्ट प्री डिपार्चर एंड पोस्ट अराइवल असिस्टेंस हम सब प्रोवाइड करते हैं. तो इन केस देयर इज एनीथिंग, प्लीज फील फ्री टू ड्रॉप अस कमेंट और डीएम. डॉक्टर सिद्धार्थ से आपके कोई क्वेश्चंस हो तो प्लीज हमें कमेंट में बताइए. दिस इज एड्यू अब्रॉड रन बाय हार्वर्ड कैम्ब्रिज alumni. My name is Aradhya Watts, signing off. Very good night.
Good night, everyone, and Merry Christmas to everyone.